The Galactic Academy of Unified Sciences floated in the void between stars, a marvel of engineering where hundreds of species gathered to learn the secrets of the universe. Within its crystalline halls, students from across the galaxy mingled, some with scales, others with feathers, and a rare few with smooth, peculiar skin like the humans. Leo was a Vrathan, a species known throughout the galaxy for their pride and martial prowess. His silver-blue skin shimmered under the Academy's artificial lighting, and his 3 eyes gave him superior depth perception, an evolutionary advantage his people never let others forget. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, with powerful limbs that had crushed stone in the gladiatorial pits of his homeworld. Among his friends he was considered bold, fearless, perhaps even reckless. But he had never been foolish enough to underestimate a human. Until her Lisa sat in the back of quantum mechanics I-4, always alone, always silent. She was small by most galactic standards, barely reaching 5.5 feet. Her brown hair fell in simple waves around an unremarkable face, and her eyes, those strange forward-facing predator eyes, remained fixed on her datapad throughout every lecture. She never participated in discussions, never joined study groups, never even looked up when Professor Krellnox's tentacles writhed in excitement over a particularly elegant equation. "She's unsettling," Leo's friend Vex had muttered one day, his mandibles clicking nervously. "The way she just watches." "She doesn't watch anything," another friend Zara had replied. "That's the problem. It's like she's not really here." But Leo had noticed something others hadn't. When Professor Krellnox made an error in his calculations, a subtle mistake in the 4th dimension, that even the teaching assistant missed, Lisa's fingers had moved across her datapad. Just the tiniest motion. She had caught it. She had corrected it silently for herself alone and said nothing. The Academy's social hierarchy was brutal in its simplicity. Humans were near the bottom. They had only joined the galactic community 3 generations ago, were barely spacefaring, and possessed no remarkable physical abilities. They couldn't breathe methane like the Zorth, couldn't survive vacuum like the crystalline Shalena, couldn't even see into the ultraviolet spectrum that most civilized species considered basic. So when Lisa scored higher than Leo on the midterm examination, higher than anyone in the class, in fact, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years, genuine curiosity mixed with wounded pride. His friends had laughed it off. "Probably cheated," Vex had said. "You know how desperate they are to prove themselves." But Leo didn't believe that. He had watched her during the exam. She had finished in half the allotted time, and spent the rest reviewing her answers with the calm precision of someone checking for transcription errors, not solving problems. The following week, when she scored perfectly again, he decided to follow her. It wasn't threatening, or so he told himself. He simply wanted to know how she did it. Perhaps she had access to restricted materials. Perhaps she was getting help from graduate students. There had to be an explanation that made sense. Class ended at 1600 hours station time. Lisa gathered her materials with practiced efficiency and left through the main corridor. Leo waited 30 seconds, then followed, maintaining a careful distance. His friends called after him, suggesting they hit the recreation sphere, but he waved them off. This wouldn't take long. Lisa walked with purpose through the Academy's winding corridors, past the zero-gravity gymnasium, past the Cultural Exchange Center, where the Melodians were conducting one of their infamous singing ceremonies. She never looked back, never hesitated, navigating the complex with the confidence of someone who had memorized every route. She entered a lift. Leo quickened his pace and slipped in just before the doors closed. They were alone. Lisa didn't acknowledge him, her eyes fixed on the floor indicator. The silence stretched uncomfortable and thick. Leo's 3 hearts began beating slightly faster. In close quarters, he realized just how small she seemed, how fragile. And yet, Deck 47, she said quietly to the lift's interface. Deck 47. That was in the research section, areas typically reserved for doctoral candidates and faculty. Students needed special permission to access those levels. The lift descended and descended. The numbers ticked down past the regular academic levels, past administration, into the deep research zones that Leo had never visited. His confidence began to waver. Perhaps this had been a mistake. Perhaps he should say something, explain that he'd accidentally gotten on the wrong lift. But pride kept him silent. The doors opened to a darkened corridor. Emergency lighting strips provided minimal illumination, casting long shadows across walls lined with sealed laboratory doors. Lisa stepped out. Leo followed, his warrior's instinct now screaming warnings that his rational mind tried to suppress. She walked halfway down the corridor and stopped before an unmarked door. Her hand moved to the access panel, and Leo expected it to reject her credentials. Instead, it chimed acceptance. The door slid open, revealing darkness beyond. Lisa stepped inside. The lights activated automatically, revealing not a laboratory but something far stranger. A small apartment, Spartan and efficient. But it was the walls that made Leo's blood run cold. Every centimeter was covered in equations. Not written, carved. Scratched into the metal with obsessive precision, formulas that Leo recognized and hundreds more that he didn't. Some appeared to be in mathematical languages that hadn't been invented yet. The ceiling, the floor, even the furniture bore the marks of frantic calculation. Lisa turned to face him. For the first time since he'd met her, she truly looked at him. Her eyes held no anger, no fear, no emotion at all, just vast cold assessment. "You shouldn't have followed me, Leo," she said. He tried to speak, to apologize, to ask what this place was. But his voice had abandoned him. Lisa stepped closer. "Your people pride themselves on pattern recognition. 3 eyes, you say, see more than 2. But you've missed the most important pattern of all." She gestured to the walls. "Humans don't learn quantum mechanics. We remember it. I don't," Leo finally managed. "This academy is 4,000 years old," Lisa continued, her voice soft but somehow filling the room. "It's taught trillions of students. Do you know how many have graduated with perfect scores in every subject?" Leo shook his head. 17. Across 4,000 years, 17. She smiled, and it wasn't quite right. Too measured, too controlled. "Would you like to know how many of those 17 were human?" The room felt suddenly smaller. Leo's predator instincts, honed over millions of years of evolution, finally recognized what his rational mind had missed. The reason Lisa never socialized, never competed, never drew attention to herself except when it couldn't be avoided. She wasn't hiding because she was weak. "All of them," Lisa said. "All 17 were human. We just spaced them out enough that nobody notices the pattern. We wouldn't want to alarm anyone." Leo backed toward the door, but it had sealed shut. "My friends," he started, "we'll report you missing tomorrow. Search parties will look for 3 days. Your parents will be notified. There will be a memorial service." Lisa's head tilted slightly, studying him like a specimen. "I'm sorry. We have rules about exposure. You seem like a good person, Leo. You really should have stayed with your friends." The last thing Leo saw before the darkness took him was not the cold efficiency in Lisa's eyes, but the equations on the walls. In his final moment of consciousness, his 3-eyed, pattern-recognizing brain finally understood what he was looking at. They weren't mathematical formulas. They were dates, coordinates, names. They were a list. And somewhere, carved among thousands of others in script so small he'd nearly missed it, was his own name. The humans hadn't joined the galactic community 3 generations ago. They'd been here all along.